23 battles, 133 enemy ships in a single fight. Zero, and I mean zero, of his own ships lost. Ever. These numbers shouldn't exist. They do. And somehow, almost no one outside Korea knows his name. So let's fix that. His name was Yi Sun-sin. He was a 16th century Korean admiral who beat the Japanese Navy so badly they rewrote their own war plans around avoiding him. The British Royal Navy would later call him Nelson's only equal. But here's the twist that makes the whole story weirder. The person most determined to destroy Admiral Yi wasn't a Japanese general. It was his own king. This is the story of the worst boss in Korean history and the man he couldn't kill. To understand why a king wanted to kill him, you first have to understand the country that king was about to lose. It's 1592. Korea has been sitting in peace for almost 200 years. 2 centuries. Long enough that nobody alive remembered what a real war looked like. Then, on April 14th, 158,000 Japanese troops under Hideyoshi Toyotomi came crashing onto the beach at Busan. And Korea's army did the one thing 200 years of peace prepares you to do: completely fall apart. Busan fell. Then everything between Busan and the capital fell. 20 days. That's how long it took for the Japanese to march to Seoul. 20 days to lose a capital. That's faster than most modern moving companies. And King Seonjo? The king speed ran running away. Out of Seoul by April 30th, all the way up to Uiju on the Chinese border by June. A king on the run, an army in pieces, a country on fire. And while the king was running, one man down on the southern coast was quietly getting ready to break every rule of naval warfare. He had a plan. It started at a place called Hansan-do. July 8, 1592. The Japanese Navy parks about 70 ships in a narrow channel called Myeongnyang. Tight water, rocks everywhere, a brutal place to fight. Yi Sun-sin knows this, so he doesn't fight there. Here's how he finds them in the first place. A horse herder named Kim Cheon-son is up on a mountain, spots the fleet, and sprints down to tell the admiral. That's the intel. A guy who watches horses for a living just changed the course of the war. Yi sends in 5 or 6 Panoxion, his 2-tiered warships, basically floating fortresses, as bait. They poke the Japanese, then run. The Japanese chase them, straight out of the narrow channel into the wide open water of Hansan-do. Exactly where Yi wants them. Then the trap closes. His fleet snaps into the crane wing formation, a long line of ships that curves inward. Picture a wall that closes like jaws. And inside those jaws, Korean cannons can reach about a kilometer. Japanese muskets? Around 150 meters. It's archery range versus a slingshot. The Jeobuxion, the turtle ships, ram straight into the middle. When the smoke clears, 63 Japanese ships destroyed. Korean losses, 0. 0. That 0 is going to keep coming back. You'd think Korea throws him a parade. You'd be wrong, because now his own king was paying attention, and what the king saw was a threat. So here's what the king saw. His admiral was too good, too popular, too hard to control. And in early 1597, the king finally got his excuse. A Japanese double agent named Yoshira walked up to the Korean court with a tip. General Kato is crossing the sea on this exact day. Ambush him here. Admiral Yi looked at the intel and said one thing. It's a trap. He refused to sail. The king lost it. Now, imagine your company fires the only employee who's actually saving the business. And when he tells them that client's email is a trap, they fire him for insubordination and promote the guy who then burns the building down. That is, word for word, 1597 in Korea. Yi was stripped of his command, dragged to the capital in chains, thrown into the royal prison, basically the king's personal dungeon. and tortured for 28 straight days. 28 days for being right. When he finally walked out, barely alive, he wasn't reinstated. He was demoted to private soldier, stripped of rank, sent south on foot to serve under another general. The greatest admiral in Korean history, marching in the dirt. And then, and I swear I'm not making this up, it gets worse. On the road south, his mother, 83 years old, died on a boat trying to reach him. He wasn't allowed to bury her properly. He had to keep marching. His war diary from that month reads like a suicide note. One line, "There is nothing I want now except to die." Meanwhile, the king handed the navy to General Won Gyun. Won Gyun sailed straight into the Battle of Myeongnyang, and in a single afternoon, he lost everything. Over 100 Korean warships, gone. Around 10,000 sailors, dead. 5 years of Yi's work at the bottom of the ocean. So Admiral Yi went from 63 Japanese ships destroyed and 0 Korean losses to the entire Korean navy destroyed and thousands dead. All because a king couldn't handle being outshone by his own employee. The Japanese navy now owned the sea. Korea had nothing left. The king, the same king who jailed him, had one option: beg. And the king, the same king who threw him in a dungeon, the same king who broke his body for 28 days, now needed him back. So he reappointed him. No apology, no pardon ceremony. Just a piece of paper saying, "Hey, can you go save the country again?" And Admiral Yi, he said yes. No hesitation, no conditions, just yes. Here's what he said yes to. 12 Panoxion. That's it. 12 warships, the ones Bay Seol had smuggled out of the Myeongnyang disaster, against the entire Japanese navy. And then the king sent one more order: disband the navy, join the army on land. Admiral Yi wrote back, and this letter, this one letter, is one of the most famous sentences in Korean history. He said, "Your Majesty, I still have 12 ships." That's the short version. The long version goes, "Your Majesty, I still have 12 warships. If I fight with everything I have, I can still do this." That was him disobeying a royal order, for the second time. The first one got him tortured. This one could get him killed. He sent it anyway. One more Panoxion showed up under Kim Il-chu. 12 became 13. 13 ships, against 133. September 16th, 1597. A narrow strait called Uldolmok, which literally means the roaring channel, because the current there rips through at 11 knots, faster than most modern speedboats. The night before, Admiral Yi wrote in his diary, "Those determined to die will live, those determined to live will die." Then he sailed in first, alone. His flagship, one ship, fighting 133. For a full hour his 12 other captains hung back, 400 meters behind, too terrified to follow. One man, one ship, holding the line. Then the tide turned. Literally. The current flipped, and the Japanese fleet got shoved backward into its own hulls. Ship smashing ship. Admiral Yi's 13 moved in. Japanese losses: 31 ships sunk, the Vanguard wiped out, the flagship destroyed. Korean losses: 2 men dead, 0 ships. That's 0 number 2, folks. 13 versus 133. Both numbers delivered. The war was over. Korea had won. But Admiral Yi had one more battle and one more king to deal with. In September 1598, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the man who started this whole mess, died in his sleep. The order went out. Every Japanese soldier, go home. Admiral Yi wasn't about to let them just leave. He teamed up with the Ming Chinese Admiral Chen Lin and cornered the retreating Japanese fleet at Gwanyeompo. December 16, 1598. The Battle of Myeongnyang, over 200 Japanese ships destroyed. The 7-year war ended right there in the water. And in the middle of that final fight, a stray bullet found Admiral Yi. His last words, "Don't announce my death, the battle is urgent." His men held his body up so the crew wouldn't know. They finished the fight first. Final record, 23 battles, 23 wins. Over 780 enemy ships destroyed. His own ships lost, 0. Those numbers weren't impossible because of the enemy. They were impossible because his own king fought him the whole way. Speaking of, when the report of Yi's death reached the palace that night, King Seonjo's response, on the record, was this: "It's late. Tell the royal secretariat to handle it tomorrow." That's it. That's the eulogy. It took 200 years. In 1795, King Jeongjo finally compiled his complete works and restored his name. And in 1921, a British Royal Navy admiral named George Alexander Ballard wrote one sentence: "Not a Korean source, a British admiral, Nelson's only equal." The admiral defeated Japan. The king nearly defeated the admiral. History took 200 years to admit who the real hero was. If you like this, leave a comment. Yi Sum-sin saw nothing, and we'll do another forgotten admiral the history books short-changed. See you next time.